Welcome to the deep dive. Today we are taking a really structured, deep look at someone who has just smashed through pretty much every boundary you could imagine. We aren't just talking about a pop singer today. We're really dissecting the empire of Rihanna Fenty,
Yeah.
the music icon, the national hero of Barbados, and the global business mogul who actually became the world's first female musician billionaire.
It is. It's an absolutely remarkable story.
Yeah.
And when you really dig into all the source material we have, the narrative isn't just like accidental success. Not at all.
Oh, no.
It's this story of constant, deliberate, sometimes maybe even ruthless reinvention. Our sources, they confirm she's one of the best-selling music artists ever, over 250 million records sold.
Just staggering in itself.
It is. But the real story, I think, is how she built the Fenty machine at the same time.
Oh.
So this deep dive, it's really about connecting those two kind of distinct careers, the art and the business side.
Okay, so our mission today, for you listening, is to really pull all these different threads together.
Yeah.
We want to track how her artistic identity evolved, understand the, frankly, groundbreaking strategy behind her Fenty businesses, and really appreciate the global social impact and even the national impact she has.
Exactly.
We've got really comprehensive sources here covering her life right from, the tough streets of Bridgetown all the way up to that Super Bowl stage and becoming a mother.
And I think we absolutely have to start with maybe the ultimate proof point of her influence, the thing that really elevates her beyond just celebrity.
Okay.
Her full name, Rihanna Fenty. It's now completely intertwined with her home country. In 2021, she was officially declared a national hero of Barbados.
Wow.
By the Prime Minister, Mia Motley. That's not just like an award. That's a permanent place in the history of her country.
Yeah, it really does set the stage, doesn't it?
Yeah,
Okay,
huh?
let's unpack that foundation then, from Bridgetown to Def Jam. Because it's easy now to just picture her in, haute couture on these mega stages.
Right.
But the sources, they give us a pretty stark reminder of her early life in St. Michael, Barbados. And it seems like that was really foundational to her drive.
Oh, absolutely. She was born in 1988. Her mother, Monica, was an accountant, Afro-Guyanese heritage. Her father, Ronald Fenty, he was a warehouse supervisor, Barbadian, with quite mixed heritage, African, Irish, English, Scottish roots.
Quite a mix.
Yeah. And they were living in this pretty modest three-bedroom bungalow in Bridgetown. And the sources really emphasized they weren't wealthy.
Right.
As a young girl, Rihanna actually spent time helping her dad sell clothes at a street stall,
Yeah.
in the local market. This wasn't just pocket money. This was helping the family make ends meet.
That early experience with, commerce, selling things, it seems almost prophetic looking back now, doesn't it?
It really does. But the sources also show there were some profound personal challenges she was dealing with during those really formative years.
Yeah, that comes through quite strongly.
Very strongly. The challenges were significant and pretty emotionally damaging, it seems. Her childhood was really heavily marked by her father's serious struggles with alcoholism and crack cocaine addiction.
That must have been incredibly difficult.
She's actually talked about witnessing physical abuse against her mother, Monica,
Yeah.
who, by the way, she describes as one of the strongest women I know.
Mm-hmm.
The psychological strain on Rihanna herself was intense. She suffered from these relentless, just debilitating headaches, apparently so severe at times that doctors even suspected, maybe a tumor.
Oh, my goodness.
And it's really critical to note, these chronic headaches only started to significantly get better after her parents finally divorced when she was about 14. That period, it was clearly this kind of crucible that forged her resilience. You have to think it did.
Yeah, you can see how that deep well of early experience, watching and surviving that kind of turbulence, it must have fed into her capacity later on for that raw emotional expression in her music.
I think so.
But okay, before the superstardom, there was the music itself. What were her early influences back in Barbados? What was she listening to?
Well, she was drawn to the arts very early on. Singing, dancing, even poetry. And her musical taste, it was definitely pointing towards the Caribbean and R&B.
Okay.
So she was listening really intently to reggae artists, Sizzla, Damian Marley, soaking up those rhythms. But at the same time, she was idolizing those American R&B powerhouses like Whitney Houston and Mariah Carey.
The greats.
The greats, exactly. And here's a detail that kind of gives you a surprising look at her discipline side, maybe.
Oh, yeah.
At age 11, she was actually a cadet in the Barbados Cadet Corps.
No kidding. Like military cadets.
Yeah. And get this, future singer, Chantel, was apparently her drill sergeant.
Wow, small world. That's amazing.
Isn't it? but it speaks to maybe an existing comfort with structure, with, regimentation, even back then.
It is surprising, especially considering the sort of rebellious image she cultivated later.
Right. But she was clearly determined. So much so that she eventually dropped out of high school at 16. Just quit school to fully commit to pursuing music.
16! That's a huge decision.
Huge. And that decision led directly to that now pretty famous audition.
The one that sort of kicked everything off.
Exactly. The audition for the American producer Evan Rogers back in 2003. It's often held up as just this textbook example of raw, undeniable star power.
So how did it happen? She was in a group initially, wasn't she?
That's right. She'd formed this unnamed trio with 2 classmates. And when they went into audition for Rogers, he later recalled, quite vividly, the minute Rihanna walked into the room, it was like the other 2 girls didn't exist.
Wow. Just immediate presence.
Immediate presence. They sang a Destiny's Child cover, Emotion. And Rogers just recognized that unique charisma instantly. He set up a second meeting just with Rihanna and her mother, and pretty soon after that, he invited them up to Connecticut to record some demo tracks.
And those demos included Pon de Replay.
They did. That foundational hit, Pon de Replay, was one of them. And eventually, those demos landed on the desk of Jay-Z.
Okay, timing is everything here, because he had just been appointed president and CEO of Def Jam Recordings.
Precisely. But the sources suggest Jay-Z wasn't immediately sold on Pon de Replay, funnily enough.
Really? Why not? It seems like such an obvious hit now.
Well, apparently, he initially thought the track might be, too big or maybe too generic for a brand new artist. He was worried it might overshadow her potential,
Interesting point.
But the energy was just undeniable. So he invited her for an in-person audition in New York. This is a really high-stakes meeting. She sang Whitney Houston's For the Love of You, plus the demo tracks. The pressure must have been immense.
I can only imagine. Singing for Jay-Z and the Def Jam execs.
And the story goes, the legend really, that the record label had absolutely zero intention of letting her walk out of that building without a contract.
Right, the famous L.A. Reid moment.
Exactly. L.A. Reid, the industry titan, he was there, and he famously told Jay-Z, who was apparently still a bit hesitant about offering the contract right there on the spot, don't let her leave the building.
Just sign her now.
The urgency was palpable. She signed a 6-album deal that very day. Canceled meetings she had lined up with other labels instantly, and then shortly after turning 16, she moved to the U.S., and her debut album, Music of the Sun, dropped in 2005.
And Music of the Sun, it was very Caribbean-inspired, right? It hit number 10 on the Billboard 200.
Yep. And Pon de Replay, well, it proved Jay-Z's initial hesitation wrong. It climbed all the way to number 2 in both the U.S. and the U.K. Huge debut single.
Then her second album followed pretty quickly, A Girl Like Me, in 2006. Still in that pop and reggae vein.
Yeah, similar vein, but it really solidified her commercial standing. It gave her her first ever #1 single, SOS.
Right, the soft cell sample.
Exactly. And that second album, it became her first RIAA double platinum album. So that's over 1 million units sold in the U.S. Huge commercial marker.
But critically, as you mentioned, she was still kind of fighting for her own identity at this point. Critics were comparing her to Beyoncé quite a lot.
Constantly, yeah, labeling her the next pop princess.
Yeah.
And she later admitted that felt really stifling. She knew she needed a drastic, really visible break from that polished image if she wanted to build a lasting career.
Which leads us perfectly into the next big chapter, Section 3, Artistic Reinvention. We're talking about the era of Good Girl Gone Bad.
Mm-hmm.
And this wasn't just a minor tweak, was it? This was a deliberate, complete overhaul of her public image and her sound in 2007.
Oh, completely deliberate. This album, Good Girl Gone Bad, it really marks the beginning of the Rihanna that we kind of recognize today, the one who seems totally in control of the narrative.
So what was the stated goal?
The stated objective was explicitly to ditch that girl next door image, to consciously dismiss it in favor of, and this is a quote, a more mature and rebellious persona.
And the music changed dramatically, too.
Dramatically. She basically jettisoned the Caribbean sounds almost entirely, shifted right into contemporary dance pop and R&B, and she brought in big names to help. Timbaland, Justin Timberlake were involved.
Right.
But crucially, she also got vocal training from Neo. He worked with her specifically on breathing techniques, on delivery. So she was actively evolving her instrument, her voice as well.
And the image. The image was revolutionary for the time. The haircut alone.
Oh, the haircut. She chopped off the long hair for that sharp asymmetrical bob. And that aesthetic shift, it was directly inspired, apparently, by Charlize Theron's look in the movie Aeon Flux.
Which is such a specific reference.
It is, but it was marketing genius, right? This visually shocking moment that tied in perfectly with the album's more aggressive, confident new sound.
And did the reinvention work commercially?
Oh, massively. Good Girl Gone Bad debuted at #2, but eventually became her best-selling album worldwide. The figures are staggering 9 million copies sold by 2023.
Wow.
And the lead single, Umbrella. Well, that was just a cultural phenomenon.
An absolute monster hit.
Monster hit. Dominated the charts. 7 weeks at #1 in the U.S. And an incredible 10 consecutive weeks at #1 in the U.K.
10 weeks? That's almost unheard of.
Pretty much. This wasn't just a hit song. This was career consolidation.
Yeah.
It won her first Grammy, Best Rap Song collaboration with Jay-Z, of course. And Entertainment Weekly, they named her Diva of the Year in 2008, that old pop princess label, officially dead and buried.
But just as she's seemingly reaching this peak of control, the narrative faced this massive, really tragic challenge with the domestic violence incident in 2009.
Yeah.
The assault by her then-boyfriend, Chris Brown, it forced her to cancel her Grammy performance. And the media storm around it, especially after TMZ leaked that photo of her injuries. It was just relentless and incredibly intrusive.
That event, as horrific as it was, it fundamentally shifted how the public saw her, I think. It added this layer of profound personal vulnerability and tragedy, really, to her public identity.
And it directly impacted her music next, didn't it?
Directly. It heavily influenced her next album, Rated R, which came out later in 2009. And that album was another dramatic, intentional shift. Sonically, it was much darker, more rock-influenced, very introspective.
So it was her way of processing it artistically.
It certainly seemed that way. It felt like her artistic processing of the trauma. And despite that heavy, darker tone, it still produced commercial success. Rude Boy went to #1 for 6 weeks.
Which shows her resilience, I suppose. But the genius, maybe, of her career longevity is that she never let one era, even one as dark as that, define her for too long. She pivoted again pretty quickly, back towards more vibrant, upbeat music with Loud in 2010.
That pivot felt very calculated and probably necessary for the kind of health of her overall brand. Loud was a full-throated return to pure dance pop, massive anthems.
And it was incredibly successful, right? Like record-breaking successful.
Yeah, it was like a record-breaking sprint. It generated 3 Billboard Hot 100 #1 singles back to back to back almost. Only Girl in the World, What's My Name, and then maybe most memorably that controversial S&M remix she did with Britney Spears.
Oh, yeah, that caused a stir.
It really did. But this period was just so prolific. She became the youngest and the fastest solo artist in Billboard Hot 100 history to rack up 10 #1 singles.
That's incredible, youngest and fastest.
It just demonstrated her absolute mastery of the pop hit machine at that point.
And the hits just kept coming with Talk in 2011. The themes there seemed to get even more explicitly mature, more sexual.
Definitely. And the sound continued to evolve, blending that dance pop and R&B with the sort of emerging sound of dubstep, which was huge at the time.
Right.
This album really cemented her status as this global dance music force. It gave us We Found Love.
Yes. Calvin Harris produced?
Produced by Calvin Harris. And it became one of the defining songs of that whole decade, really. It spent 10 non-consecutive weeks at #1 in the U.S. That was her longest-running chart topper up to that point.
And the video for We Found Love was also quite controversial, wasn't it? Showing this chaotic, sort of drug-fueled relationship.
Very controversial. But that controversy, you get the sense it was part of the plan. She actually stated quite openly that she intentionally wanted to make videos that would, quote, give us something to talk about.
So she was actively using provocative content as a tool to keep people talking, to control the discourse.
Exactly. It feels like a strategy. And it worked. That video won Video of the Year at the VMAs, making her the first woman ever to win that top award more than once.
Which is another milestone. Okay, finally, in this incredibly productive run, we get to Unapologetic in 2012, her first U.S. #1 album.
Yep, first time topping the Billboard 200 album chart. This one explored vulnerability a bit more through a kind of synth pop lens, and it featured another massive global hit, Diamonds.
Right, written by Sia.
It's written by Sia, yeah. But the promotion for this album, Unapologetic, was almost as notorious as the music itself.
You're talking about the 777 tour.
The 777 tour, exhausting just thinking about it. The concept was incredibly aggressive. 7 shows in 7 different countries, all in just 7 days.
How did they even manage that?
She chartered this Boeing 777 plane, filled it with journalists, fans, her whole team flew city to city. While it generated absolutely massive buzz, and there was a documentary about it later, the sources revealed the internal drama was pretty significant.
Oh, really?
Yeah, reporters were apparently often deprived of sleep, didn't get much access to Rihanna herself. It became kind of infamous, but it really showed her intense commitment to promotion and the incredibly high-pressure environment she was operating in. She was willing to push the boundaries, even for an album rollout.
So by 2014, she'd released 7 albums in 8 years, multiple number ones, reinvented herself completely. She was undeniably this musical titan who had mastered not just singing, but the art of perpetual, successful public transformation.
Absolutely, which sets the stage perfectly for the next major shift.
Okay, this mastery of the artistic brand, it leads us right into Section 4, the mogul status. Because shortly after Unapologetic, that relentless pace of musical output, it did slow down quite a bit.
It did, and she publicly talked about wanting a break. She said she desired, quote, a year to just do whatever I want artistically, creatively. She needed space.
And that desire, that space, it led to a really crucial strategic pivot, didn't it? In 2014, she officially moved her management.
Yes, she moved from Def Jam over to Roc Nation, which further aligned her with Jay-Z's sort of broader entrepreneurial network.
Yeah.
And the period after that break, it was marked by a different kind of artistic freedom. You saw it in the standalone singles she released.
Right, singles that weren't tied to an immediate album project, like 4 or 5 seconds.
Exactly. That acoustic-leaning track with Kanye West and Paul McCartney,
Yeah.
so unexpected.
Totally unexpected. And then the really aggressive track, Bitch Better Have My Money.
Mm-hmm. And American Oxygen, too. What's really remarkable, though, is that these huge standalone singles, songs that many artists would build an entire era around, they were completely left off the final track list of her next album, Anti.
That is amazing. It really speaks volumes about the sheer amount of material she must have had, or her creative confidence at that point.
It really does.
Yeah.
And that album, Anti, which finally came in 2016, was apparently born amidst some significant creative struggles. She famously described like tearing up earlier recordings and basically starting over.
So it wasn't an easy process.
Doesn't sound like it.
Hmm.
But the final product, Anti, it was this wonderfully eclectic masterpiece, really. It blended dancehall, psychedelic soul, trap. It felt like a deliberate, maybe even slightly chaotic rejection of pure pop formula.
And she released it in an unconventional way, too, didn't she? Initially on Tidal?
Yeah, another tactical move. Released exclusively on Tidal First, Jay-Z's streaming service. Kind of disrupting that traditional distribution model again.
But despite the unconventional approach, the weight, the creative struggles, Anti was still a huge success.
Oh, yeah. It became her second chart-topping album in the U.S. And it gave us Work, featuring Drake, which was another massive #1 single.
But even as this sort of new artistic era was unfolding, you could sense her focus was clearly broadening beyond just the music charts. We should probably talk about her film career developing around this time, too.
Yeah, that was happening concurrently. Now, her initial jump into film, it wasn't exactly met with critical acclaim.
Right, Battleship, 2012.
Battleship, yeah. The alien invasion movie. Critics basically described her performance as Petty Officer Cora Rakes, as, just fine, in a pretty generic role. Not exactly glowing reviews.
No.
However, she seemed to quickly learn how to leverage film roles more strategically to kind of build her credibility beyond music. She voiced the main character, Tip, in the animated film Home in 2015.
Which was quite successful.
Very successful. And then she took on these key supporting roles in some pretty major projects. She was in the Luc Besson's sci-fi epic Valerian in 2017. And then, perhaps most strategically, she was part of that all-female ensemble cast in the heist movie Ocean's 8 in 2018.
Which was a huge hit.
Huge hit. Grossed something like $300 million globally. These roles, they really positioned her as a legitimate multi-hyphenate entertainer, not just, a singer trying her hand at acting.
Okay, so music evolving, film career developing. Now we arrive at the real engine of her immense wealth, the business empire. This is where that strategic duality you mentioned earlier becomes really intentional and, frankly, financially staggering.
This is absolutely the crux of her transformation into the mogul. And our sources make this crystal clear. She consciously, deliberately uses her surname, Fenty, exclusively for all her business ventures.
Which is brilliant, actually.
It's a masterstroke in brand management, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
It intentionally separates that raw, sometimes controversial Rihanna artistic identity from the disciplined, meticulous, inclusive Fenty entrepreneurial identity.
So when did the Fenty era really begin in earnest? Was it the Puma deal?
Yeah, the Puma partnership was really the major launchpad. She was named creative director of Puma's women's line back in 2014.
And that Puma deal, it was the first really clear signal that she wasn't just like slapping her name on something. She was actually designing, leading the creative direction.
Exactly. And that launch, particularly to the footwear, it was this phenomenon of scarcity and high demand.
The creepers, right.
The creepers. Her very first sneaker design, they sold out online in something like 3 hours.
3 hours?
Yeah. This wasn't your typical celebrity endorsement deal. This was a strategic repositioning of the entire Puma brand within that booming athleisure market. It was led by her design vision. The sources confirmed the monumental financial impact, too. Her Fenty X Puma clothing line eventually generated over $1 billion for the company.
Over $1 billion for Puma. That kind of success, that must have attracted some serious attention.
It absolutely did. Specifically, the attention of the ultimate luxury powerhouse, LVMH.
Moet, Hennessy, Louis Vuitton. Which brings us to Fenty Beauty in 2017, the move that basically redefined the entire cosmetics industry.
It really did. And the partnership structure here is absolutely critical to understand. She launched Fenty Beauty with LVMH, yes, but specifically with their Kendo division.
What's Kendo?
Kendo is basically LVMH's incubator for developing independent beauty brands. And crucially, she retained a vital 50% ownership stake in Fenty Beauty. She wasn't just licensing her name, she was a co-owner.
50%, that's significant control.
Hugely significant. And the core philosophy right from day one was inclusivity. Not as some marketing afterthought, but built into the brand's DNA. They launched with 40 Shades of Foundation.
40 Shades, which at the time was revolutionary.
Absolutely revolutionary. Catering to skin tones, particularly deeper skin tones, that had been largely ignored by the legacy beauty brands for decades.
And that launch, it immediately sparked what the industry now calls the Fenty effect. Can you elaborate on what that means, the significance of that term?
Yeah, the Fenty effect. It describes the immediate and immense pressure that Fenty Beauty's launch put on the entire cosmetics industry. Suddenly, every brand had to drastically expand their own foundation shade ranges or risk looking completely out of touch.
So it forced their hand.
It totally forced their hand. It wasn't just about selling makeup. It was about market disruption driven by ethics, by representation. Fenty Beauty proved, undeniably, that inclusivity was hugely profitable. It made competitors scramble, reformulate, relaunch their products. It changed the baseline expectation.
That's incredible impact. No wonder Time magazine recognized it.
Exactly. Fenty Beauty was named one of Time's 25 best inventions of 2017, specifically because of that massive cultural and industry impact.
And she didn't stop with makeup. That same focus and representation on inclusivity, it fueled her next major business venture too, right?
Savage X Fenty, yeah.
Yeah.
Launched in 2018, her inclusive lingerie line. And again, the core principles were the same. Diversity, body positivity, and a really expansive size range XS, all the way up to 4X from the start.
Which was a direct challenge to established players like Victoria's Secret.
A direct and very successful challenge. And she was clever about the distribution, too. She debuted the line at New York Fashion Week, sure, but then she packaged these elaborate runway shows into these slickly produced fashion specials for Amazon Prime Video.
Reaching millions instantly.
Millions instantly, yeah. Bypassing traditional retail gatekeepers to some extent. Very modern.
Okay, makeup, lingerie. Then came the really big power move in 2019, launching her own high fashion house, Fenty, also under the LVMH umbrella.
That was truly monumental. Historically significant, actually.
Right.
She became the first woman ever to create an original brand for LVMH from scratch.
The first woman ever.
Ever. And specifically, the first woman of color to lead one of LVMH's prestigious luxury houses. Furthermore, it was the first new fashion house the group had launched since Christian Lacroix, way back in 1987.
Wow, that's a 32-year gap. That's immense trust from LVMH.
Immense institutional trust and a recognition of her power, absolutely. It elevated her from beauty mogul to, legitimate high fashion designer, operating at the very pinnacle of the luxury world.
Now that fashion house, Fenty, it was later suspended, wasn't it?
It was, yeah. It was put on pause, suspended in 2021. The reporting suggests this was largely due to the significant challenges and supply chain disruptions caused by the COVID-19 pandemic. It seems to have been more of a strategic pause rather than an outright failure.
Okay.
But even with that pause, The runaway success of Fenty Beauty and Savage X Fenty, that's what propelled her net worth into the stratosphere.
And that's what officially solidified her status as the world's first female musician billionaire in 2021, with a net worth estimated around $1.7 billion at the time.
Exactly. The Fenty brand, the disciplined, inclusive, meticulously managed mogul side, actually became, in financial terms, more valuable than the Rihanna brand, the raw, experimental artist side.
That separation strategy really paid off.
It's genius, isn't it? It allowed the Fenty brand to be seen as this reliable, high-quality, ethical luxury provider, while the Rihanna brand could remain provocative, creatively free, take risks without damaging the core business. It's this brilliant insulation strategy.
And beyond just the profit motive, she has consistently used her platform, her influence for advocacy and global philanthropy as well.
Yeah, that's a really important thread throughout her career. Her main philanthropic efforts are channeled through the Clara Lionel Foundation, the CLF.
Named after her grandparents.
Named after her grandparents, Clara and Lionel Braithwaite, yeah. She founded it in 2012. And the CLF focuses primarily on supporting global education initiatives and also emergency response efforts worldwide.
And she uses her star power to raise money for it, like the Diamond Ball.
Exactly. Those Diamond Ball galas became major fundraising events, leveraging her celebrity network. The second one alone reportedly raised over $3 million. But her advocacy work is equally significant, especially on issues around racial and social justice.
Her public statements on those issues have often been quite forceful and clear.
Very much so. She's used her huge platform to speak out strongly against police brutality. She participated in that powerful video, 23 Ways You Could Be Killed If You Were Black in America. She also openly criticized Donald Trump's immigration policies. But perhaps the most high-profile, high-stakes move that demonstrated her principles was when she declined the offer to perform at the 2019 Super Bowl halftime show.
Right. In solidarity with Colin Kaepernick.
Exactly. Choosing to prioritize that political stance, her solidarity with Kaepernick and his protest against racial injustice over what is arguably one of the biggest commercial and visibility opportunities an artist can possibly get, that sent a very strong message.
It really did. And it maybe gives some context to something less publicized, the fact that she actually sued her own father.
Yeah, that was quite something. She filed a lawsuit against her father, Ronald Fenty, alleging he was misusing the Fenty name for his own commercial purposes, trying to set up some kind of Fenty entertainment company without her authorization.
Wow. What happened with that?
Well, the lawsuit was eventually dropped just before it was due to go to trial. But taking that aggressive legal stance against her own father, it just reinforces how absolutely critical it was for her to maintain strict control over the Fenty brand identity, to ensure its value wasn't diluted or damaged by unauthorized ventures, even from family. The message was clearly sent. The Fenty brand is hers, it's sacred, and it's tightly controlled.
And she's been recognized for this combination of success and social commitment, hasn't she? Like with the NAACP award.
Yes, she received the prestigious President's Award at the NAACP Image Awards. And that award specifically highlighted both her groundbreaking business achievements and her extensive record as a public advocate and philanthropist. It recognized that duality.
Okay, so we've covered the artist, the mogul, the advocate. Let's move into Section 5. Icon status, motherhood, and milestones. If the business success cemented her as a mogul, her return to the stage in 2023, that really felt like it cemented her status as a true generational icon.
Oh, the Super Bowl halftime show in February 2023. That was absolutely momentous. It wasn't just another performance. It felt like this carefully curated cultural statement.
And it marked her big return to live performance after quite a long break.
A 5-year hiatus from live performing, yeah. And significantly, it also effectively signaled the end of her previously self-imposed boycott of the event, the one she undertook in support of Kaepernick. So performing was a statement in itself.
And the audience numbers just confirmed her status as this massive universal draw, didn't they?
The viewing figures were absolutely astronomical. The show pulled in 121.017 million viewers. That officially surpassed Katy Perry's 2015 show, making it the most-watched Super Bowl halftime show in history.
Most watched ever.
Ever. But the ultimate reveal during that performance, the thing that truly broke the internet,
Is the pregnancy reveal?
Exactly. She became the first person ever to headline the Super Bowl halftime show while pregnant. And she literally revealed her condition, her second pregnancy, live on stage to the entire world. Just this incredibly powerful display of controlling her personal narrative alongside her professional one.
And she and A$AP Rocky went on to welcome their second son later that year. Our sources also indicate they welcomed a third child, a daughter, in 2025. It's quite amazing how she manages to prioritize her growing family while still operating at the absolute peak of global fame and professional visibility.
It really is. And her connection to music, although maybe less frequent now, it remains incredibly potent when she chooses to engage. Just before that Super Bowl performance, she released Lift Me Up in 2022.
Right, for the Black Panther Wakanda Forever soundtrack.
Exactly. That was her first solo release since the Anti album back in 2016. And what happened? It immediately earned her Oscar and Golden Globe nominations for Best Original Song.
Just proving that her musical currency, her impact, remains incredibly high, even with longer gaps between releases.
Absolutely. When she speaks musically, people still listen very closely.
Let's talk a bit more about the raw numbers, the stats that really define her musical legacy, because the accolades are just staggering when you lay them out.
They really put her in the absolute highest tier of musical achievement. In the U.S., she holds 14 Billboard Hot 100 #1 singles.
14 number ones. Where does that rank all time?
That puts her third most all-time for solo artists, behind only Mariah Carey and the Beatles overall. Just incredible company.
And her digital sales.
Even more dominant there, perhaps. She is the highest certified female digital single artist by the RIAA. That means she's surpassed over 100 million gold and platinum certifications for her digital tracks in the U.S. alone, just unmatched for a female artist.
Wow. And what about internationally? In the UK, for instance?
Her dominance is just as clear across the Atlantic. In the UK singles market, she ranks second only to the Beatles for the most million-selling singles.
Second only to the Beatles.
Think about that. That's the benchmark of true generational staying power, outselling almost everyone in one of the world's biggest music markets.
We touched briefly on her vocal development earlier, getting training from Neo. But what do critics generally say about her actual artistry, her vocal technique over the years?
Well, technically, she's classified as a mezzo-soprano.
Yeah.
Her documented vocal range spans from B2 up to C#6, which is quite broad. While, yes, she got that early training from Neo focusing on basics like breathing, critics generally praise her evolution. She went from what was sometimes described as a more vulnerable, maybe thinner delivery on the early albums, to developing a voice that's highly controlled, incredibly versatile, and capable of conveying a huge range of emotions, often with this signature, almost cool detachment.
Right. Rolling Stone ranked her pretty highly on their recent list.
They did. She came in at number 68 on their 200 Greatest Singers of All Time list in 2023. And one critic memorably described her voice as having transformed into, quote, a weapon of emotional chill and strategic indifference, which I think really captures that sense of control she mastered, possibly reflecting those turbulent early years.
That's a great description. And finally, let's talk about her image again. Because that constant aesthetic metamorphosis we discussed, it feels absolutely central to her identity and her icon status. She's really been regarded as a major fashion icon since that good girl gone bad transformation, hasn't she?
Oh, absolutely. Her influence on fashion simply cannot be overstated. The Guardian newspaper once noted that her wardrobe is arguably the most talked about, influential, and dissected in pop. Her choices immediately ripple out and influence mainstream fashion trends.
And she sees fashion as more than just clothes, right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
She's described it herself as a form of statement, and often, interestingly, as a kind of defense mechanism. The power of her image, her ability to command attention through fashion, was demonstrated perfectly at the 2015 Met Gala.
Ugh, the famous yellow gown.
The incredible, enormous yellow guopé gown with the massive train. That single outfit, that one red carpet moment, reportedly generated over 1 billion impressions online.
1 billion impressions from one dress.
It just underscored her unique ability to turn fashion into a measurable, global cultural conversation. She understands the power of the visual better than almost anyone.
And then, to bring it all full circle, tying it back to the very beginning, the highest honors, the deepest recognition, still comes from her home, from Barbados. Her global success translates directly into this national veneration.
Absolutely. And the honors she's received from Barbados are quite unique in the realm of modern celebrity. As we mentioned, in 2021, she was officially declared the Right Excellent National Hero of Barbados. That's the highest honor the country bestows.
And she was made an ambassador before that.
Yes. Back in 2018, she was designated Ambassador Extraordinary and Plenipotentiary for Barbados, with a specific mandate to promote education, tourism, and investment for the island.
Wow.
Furthermore, the nation actually celebrates Rihanna Day every year on February 22nd, her birthday. So her journey, it's not just seen as a celebrity success story there. It's viewed as a vital national export.
Hmm.
She's culminated in becoming this permanent, celebrated fixture in the nation's actual identity and history.
This has been a tremendously detailed deep dive, just looking at the sheer scope of the multifaceted empire of Robin Rihanna Fenty is, well, it's quite something.
It really is.
So just to quickly summarize this whole journey for you, the listener,
Yeah.
we've basically tracked her trajectory right from being a struggling child helping her dad sell clothes in Bridgetown,
Mm.
all the way through mastering that raw, experimental, constantly evolving Rihanna artistic identity across, what, 5 really distinct musical eras we identified?
And at the same time, concurrently, we've mapped out the deliberate creation of the Fenty business empire,
Yeah.
this disciplined, meticulous, and crucially highly inclusive conglomerate.
And that strategy of separation seems key.
Absolutely key. Separating the often provocative artistic brand from the quality-driven, reliable business brand.
Yeah.
It's a crucial distinction, as you said. One drives the cultural conversation, generates buzz, takes risks. The other drives the financial valuation, built on principles like the Fenty effect that literally redefined industry standards.
So she shattered music records left and right, becoming the highest certified female digital artist ever. And simultaneously, she shattered luxury and beauty industry ceilings, making history as the first female musician to achieve billionaire status.
And this brings us right back to that blueprint for her success, this constant, deliberate management of duality. We saw how so many of the artistic choices, the controversial videos, the darker albums, the outspoken political stances, they seem designed to be loud, public, maybe even rebellious.
Yeah.
But then her business ventures, Fenty Beauty, Savage X Fenty, they thrive on these principles of quiet, meticulous inclusivity, structure, and broad appeal. It's almost the opposite approach.
Which raises, I think, a really important final question for you, the listener, especially as you look at success and entrepreneurship in the modern world. How does this specific, very intentional maintenance of 2 separate yet equally powerful identities, the raw experimental artist versus the disciplined inclusive mogul, how does that serve as maybe the necessary blueprint for achieving not just longevity, but that kind of unparalleled financial and cultural success in the modern age?